What is your favorite Van Damme movie? What's up, everybody? So, my answer to the previous question is a difficult one to answer because I'm such an unabashed Jean Claude Van Damme fanboy. I've seen every single movie he's done, good, bad, classic, terrible, doesn't matter. But if I had to boil it down, I'm gonna say Time Cop. It was the last big hit that he ever had. It came out in 1994, directed by Peter Hyams, and I think the two movies he did with Peter Hyams, Time Cop and the one right after Sudden Death, I think are two of the best ones that he has, even though they might not be as classic. But as far as quality of the movie itself, along with story, performance, and action sequences, those two are hands down the better ones. Peter Hyams, I think, is just has a way of getting the best out of Van Damme. He knows which cuts to use. He knows how to edit them together. He knows when he should speak and when he should not speak, and it makes his performance superior to so many of his other movies. You know, from Bloodsport to Universal Soldier to Double Impact and so many others, where that's not as much of a fan as I am. I'm also realistic, and I can see that he's not the best of actors, especially when you compare him to his peers, specifically Arnold, Bruce Willis, Stallone, Chuck Norris, even. But he still has that presence. He still has this great charisma. And in Time Cop, playing a police officer that is able to go in different parts of time, but in a very specific way. That's another thing that I really appreciate about the movie is that the rules make sense, even though in general time traveling has so many holes in it that you can kind of see why it hasn't happened. So in these particular rule set, you can only go in the past. You can never go in the future because the future hasn't happened yet. And so I know even that has a particular plot hole within it. But like I said, for the movie, it still makes sense. And so when he goes back in time, and now that, okay, another great rule is that the same matter can occupy the same space. You know, so he cannot encounter himself and touch his previous self because there is something that happens towards the end that uh, tells the audience, shows the audience what happens. And then, as the tagline even says, they killed his wife 10 years ago. There's still time to save her. Nice and corny, you know, par for the course as far as a 90s action movie goes. You know, so in the film, he's supposed to be killed, but his wife is killed, and he's mourning her loss because he knows that in the position that he is in, he can still, even though he's realistically could go back in the past and save her, but he knows it's the wrong thing to do because it affects everything else, the ripples in time, as they say. But somebody is going back in time and trying to make things happen, trying to change things. And so, being the cop that he is, he investigates. And he finds out that it's this one particular politician who is going back in time to raise enough money so that way they can run for president and win. And that particular villain is played by the great and the late great Ron Silver. And I love Ron Silver's performance in this one. He is hamming it up like no other. It's kind of one of those performances that Jeffrey Dean Morgan would give, you know, like very similar to a Negan type of character. He's having so much fun being the bad guy that it's in it of itself is just a great source of entertainment. Not just how him and Van Damme are in conflict with each other, but just watching him operate is just super great. And so you see how he's trying to make things happen in without without being the but still following the rules of the cop that he is because he's still ethical and he is still trying to be professional and ethical, but Ron Silver's character is not. So it's like that's the conflict within him. How do I continue being the type of cop that I am without breaking the rules to stop this guy from doing what he's doing? And so overall, it's just one of the best ones. It has great fight sequences, and I think that's one of the things that Van Damme still does not get credit for, because for the most part, he's the one that choreographed those fight scenes. He probably worked with somebody at some point, but he was the architect of those scenes. So as corny as like the splits may be, there's that particular fight scene where the guy is about to shock him as he's laying down on the floor, and he still kind of pops up, does a front split, and the other guy ends up being killed. Super ridiculous, but it works. He knew what his audience enjoyed. He didn't really think too much of the realism of his fight scenes. He was very much about the entertainment factor of it. So it makes sense that, as I've dug into Van Damme's filmography and his career in general, his goal was to be the Fred Astaire of martial arts movies. And there is very much a fluid and dance-like quality to his fight scenes, and that's kind of the thing that was the market he tapped into. Bruce Lee wanted complete realism to it. Chuck Norris wanted to be the badass. Steven Seagal, wanted to do whatever he was doing, but Van Damme was like, this is what my signature is going to be. It's going to be fluid, it's going to be dance-like, and there's going to be an aesthetic to my fight scenes that no other martial arts action hero has in theirs. And he did it the best. He knew what he wanted to do, his way, his style that is unique to himself, and he was able to pull it off, and that's one of the reasons why I love his movie so much. Anyways, what about you guys? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Smash that like button, give me a follow, and I'll see you guys next time.